Owl puts up a sign, Rabbit objects to it, and everybody marches forward in a circle. Owl had put up a new sign outside his house. Now Owl's house is the sort of house which looks as if it has been thinking for a very long time, and Owl himself looks the same. And when Owl does anything new, he does it in such an old-fashioned way that it feels as if it has always been there. The sign was hung on a branch just by Owl's door, and the letters on it were so big and so carefully made that they looked as if they had come to visit Owl and were staying for tea. It said, Owl, which was sensible because it was Owl's house. Underneath, Owl had written, This way, and had drawn an arrow, because Owl felt that arrows were the sort of thing which made a sign properly signy, even if they made people talk about directions more than they had meant to. And this is what it looked like. Only, of course, Owl's arrow was drawn much better than this, because Owl would not be satisfied with a poor arrow. Owl this way. Pooh stood in front of it for a long time, sounding it out softly.
O-O-L,
said Pooh.
That says owl, doesn't it?
It does,
said Owl proudly. Rabbit was standing in front of it with his nose in the air, which is how Rabbit stands when he has found something which ought to be different. Pooh was there too, because Pooh had been passing and the sign had made him stop, and Owl had invited him in to admire it, and Pooh had admired it in the best way he knew, which was to look at it and think about whether it said,
Honey.
It's pointing the wrong way,
said Rabbit.
It is not,
said Owl. Pooh looked from one to the other, and then at the sign.
Which way is it pointing?
asked Pooh politely.
Forward,
said Owl.
Not forward,
said Rabbit.
Forward,
said Owl again, because Owl liked repeating words which sounded clever. Pooh's ears drooped a little, because directions always make Pooh uneasy. Directions are the sort of thing which expect you to choose.
How can it be wrong?
asked Pooh, trying to help. Rabbit tapped the sign with a paw.
Because,
he said,
the sign is meant to tell people where Owl's house is, and it is pointing as if Owl's house is over there. It is over there,
said Owl proudly.
It is here,
snapped Rabbit. Owl drew himself up.
I wrote it,
he said.
That doesn't mean it can't be wrong,
said Rabbit.
Well, it isn't,
said Owl. Pooh swallowed.
If you wrote it,
he said slowly,
then it must be written.
Rabbit and Owl both looked at him as if he had spoken very wisely or very unhelpfully, which is often the same thing. Just then Christopher Robin came up the path, because Christopher Robin is always arriving at moments when words are beginning to argue with each other.
Hello,
he said.
Hello, Christopher Robin,
said Pooh, very relieved.
Christopher Robin,
said Rabbit.
Can you tell Owl that his sign is pointing the wrong way?
It is not,
said Owl most determinedly. Christopher Robin looked at the sign, and then he looked at the path which curved gently round Owl's house in the friendly way paths do when they know they belong there.
It looks all right to me,
he said.
That's because you haven't tested it,
said Rabbit.
Tested it?
said Christopher Robin.
We shall hold a small ceremony,
said Owl, because Owl likes ceremonies even when they are small.
And we shall march forward to see if forward is properly forward.
Then, because Owl cannot help being Owl, he went inside and came out with a piece of paper on which he had written the programme. This is what it said. Programme of the forward ceremony. 1. Everybody admire the sign. 2. Everybody march forward. 3. Everybody agree it was forward.
Signed, Owl.
Rabbit read it, and his whiskers twitched, because Rabbit does not like programs which tell him to agree.
It should say test,
said Rabbit, and he wrote the word test in such a firm way that Owl couldn't very well pretend it wasn't there. Rabbit's eyes gleamed.
Yes,
He said.
a proper test. Pooh looked alarmed. Do we have to march? He asked.
Only a little.
Said Christopher Robin. So they held a ceremony. Owl stood by his sign importantly, as if he were the person in charge of forward. Rabbit stood opposite him, as if he were in charge of not forward. Pooh stood in the middle, because Pooh always ends up in the middle when two people are pulling in different directions. Christopher Robin stood beside Pooh, because Christopher Robin knew it would help. Owl cleared his throat, which is what Owl does when he is about to say something that has no need of clearing.
We are assembled
He began.
to determine the directional correctness of
Forward.
Said Rabbit.
forward.
Said Owl, pleased to be helped. Pooh looked at Christopher Robin and whispered,
Is forward the way you go when you are going?
Yes.
said Christopher Robin. Pooh felt better for a moment, and then worse, because Pooh was not sure he was going anywhere at all. Rabbit said briskly,
I shall march forward first. Everyone follow.
Rabbit set off with his chest out and his tail in, marching in what he was sure was forward, because it was the way that took him away from Owl's house and towards a sensible place. Pooh and Christopher Robin followed, and Owl followed too, because Owl did not want anybody marching forward without him, and besides, the ceremony had begun. They marched along the path. The path went forward in a curving sort of way, as paths sometimes do when they have been in the wood a long time and know all the best corners. They passed a patch of ferns and a stump which looked like a chair for somebody very small. They marched past a bush, and then they marched past the bush again, only from a different side, which made Pooh feel that the bush was doing a trick. And then quite suddenly they came back to Owl's sign. Rabbit stopped dead.
There!
He said triumphantly.
We have returned. Therefore the sign is wrong, because forward should not bring you back.
It brought us back because you marched wrongly.
Said Owl at once.
I did not.
Said Rabbit.
You did.
Said Owl.
Now I shall march forward correctly.
Owl lifted his head, adjusted his feathers as if to make them more forward, and set off in what Owl believed to be forward, which was a different direction, because Owl had decided that if Rabbit went one way, forward must obviously be the other. They followed Owl. Owl marched with dignity. He marched so dignifiedly that Pooh felt he ought to march too, and he tried. But Pooh is not made for marching. Pooh is made for strolling, and even when Pooh strolls, it is not always in a straight line. They marched along the path, and the path curved, and they went past the ferns and the stump and the trick bush, and the stump looked as if it was thinking, "Not again!" And then, just as before, they came back to Owl's sign. Owl blinked at it.
Ha!
He said.
You see, the sign is clever. It brings you back to admire it from all angles.
Rabbit stamped his foot.
It is not clever!
He said.
The wood is turning.
Pooh looked worried.
Is it?
He asked. Christopher Robin laughed.
No, Pooh.
He said.
The path just curves.
Pooh stared at the path.
It does?
Pooh asked.
It does,
said Christopher Robin. Pooh felt a great relief.
Okay.
Pooh said.
Because I thought I had been walking in circles.
Rabbit looked at the path again, and then at the sign, and then at Owl, and then, because Rabbit does not like to be wrong in public, he said,
Well, if the path curves, then the sign must take that into account.
Owl puffed himself up.
It does,
said Owl.
It takes everything into account. I wrote it.
Christopher Robin put his hand on Pooh's head.
Forward,
he said,
is whichever way you are going when you are together.
Pooh nodded solemnly and smiled.
"That is a very good way,"
he said.
"because then you do not have to go alone."
And because Pooh was feeling grateful to Forward for being less frightening, he hummed a little hum as they stood there, all facing in the same direction for once.
"Forward, forward, tiddly-pom, forward is the way from home. If the path goes round and round, forward's where your friends are found."
Rabbit sniffed, Owl beamed, and Christopher Robin smiled, and the sign stayed where it was, pointing in the same way it had always pointed, which was quite right, because Owl's house was still Owl's house. "And that," I said to Christopher Robin later, "is why forward is an easier word when there is someone beside you." Christopher Robin nodded.
And when there isn't,
he said.
you can always wait.
Exactly, I said.